Hello, guys. Sorry, I kind of look like shit today, but I look like shit a lot of times because I'm tired. Mm, I am like parched. But anyways, so I told all you guys I was going to go do this hypnotherapy stuff, and I did that. Whew, I must say that I wasn't really nervous to go do it. I thought I would be. But once I got in there, this woman, Natalie, Dr. Natalie Candela, she was very nice and she had this awesome presence about her that just made you feel comfortable. Um, and I discussed, like, she asked me, like, what do you want to ask yourself when you're under, and, all this and all that. So we discussed all that stuff. But I could tell she had a very calming spirit around her and a very positive spirit, and you could tell that she was not a judgmental person at all. So when I talked about my mediumship with her and said, I know right now you're probably thinking I'm nuts. And she's like, actually, I don't, because I have my own intuition. I don't talk to people who've passed over or whatever, but I have my own intuition that's helped me throughout my lifetime in periods. As a matter of fact, it helped her become a psychotherapist because she used to work for a university, like an advisor for the academics, like the teachers and coaches and that kind of stuff. So she quit that job to do this hypnotherapy because she had her own kind of like spiritual awakening. So I felt very comfortable. I knew that she was not going to judge me for the things I said, or, sometimes you're like, yeah, if I was to go to like my family doctor and tell them this kind of stuff, they'd probably lock me up. But because she's been down some of these paths similar to mine, she was not judgmental. So Dr. Natalie Candela, and I know she's over in Columbus, Ohio, but I picked that because I felt drawn to her for some reason. I don't even know how I found her. It was crazy, but I seen some in Chicago, I seen some in other states, and I seen Columbus, Ohio, and I was more drawn to her, especially because her ratings was like 4.9 out of 5. That's pretty damn good. So I thought, okay, if anybody's gonna be able to help me, it's probably gonna be her because she's got such a good rating. Anyways, so I haven't gotten my audio back yet. I'm hoping it'll be here probably by tomorrow. Or maybe by tomorrow. But anyways, so I have to download that onto my computer and listen to it first before I let anybody hear any parts of it, because I don't know exactly what I said. I can recount things that happened while I was under and people I seen along the way, and people's faces in towns. I even remember this one town. It was like Bakersfield or Bakersville, something like that. But I know like they said it could take up to like 4 hours. So the first hour I basically talked about, trying to figure out what I needed to do, what I wanted to do. Is there anything I wanted to ask myself while I was under? And what happens is she brings out like two different past lives that come through that will relate to your current life you're living. So that'll help you. It's like lessons that you learn. Like I've always said, you're learning lessons, right? So this was like proof of that. This is like because both lives I brought forth pertain to the things going on in my life right now, in this lifetime, which is so bizarre because I don't know. I can't even explain it, guys. I can't even explain it. But anyways, so I'm going to listen to it. It's like I think it was like a 3.5 hour audio or 4.5 hour audio because technically when I woke up, she was like, so how long do you think you were in that state? And I was like, oh, probably about an hour. She's like, try like 3.5 hours. You were under like that. I'm like, what? It did not seem that way. That's very bizarre. Um, Part of the reason why I want to listen to all this myself and decide if I'm going to let you guys hear all of it, part of it, or bits and pieces, or I'm just going to explain it. And the reason is because some of the things I talked about might freak people out. Not like the world's coming to an end or doomsday is coming or anything like that. It wasn't nothing like that at all. But I did talk about biblical times in one of my lives. And so that's a touchy subject for many people. I don't want to give people the impression about anything because, to be honest with you, I've never read the Bible. I have no clue what everything's in there. I couldn't tell you what Mark 1.3, if there even is one, says. I mean, I'm just not a Bible studier. Now, grant you, I've grew up in a Catholic church, and I remember the priests talking about, different things that were in the Bible, and he would always relate a story of somehow, related to that section in the Bible. So that's kind of like it's kind of hard to understand the Bible anyways. They talk in this weird language, and it's very riddle-ish and rhymish. So I'm not good with that kind of stuff. I can't focus on that kind of stuff. And then I overanalyze everything. So I would read way more into everything that's being said in there than what's really being said in there. Yes, I overanalyze everything. I do in life sometimes. So I don't know exactly what I'm going to let you guys hear for sure, because I want to hear it first to see and make sure that I'm not going to overstep anybody's belief systems, and that I'm not going to, I don't know, freak people out maybe. I don't know. Plus, I don't remember everything I said. I mean, I know she asked me questions, but I can't even really recall all those questions. I do remember the two people I was, and I do remember the two lives I died from, and I experienced those. And there is a part in there when I'm coming through for like my first life or whatever, that I get a little choked up. And the reason is because when she asked me where I'm going, because I'm seeing certain things, it's almost like I'm hesitant to tell her where I'm going. I don't know why I'm hesitant. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm going to go see, but I can't. I think it was so overwhelming while I was under to me, like, oh my God, this is really happening. I'm really seeing this stuff, that I was scared to say the name, and tears started rolling down my face, because I think that it gave me answers to questions I had about Jesus and things like that, but I wasn't calling him Jesus. I was like, I just remember like correcting myself. I called him the Messiah, and I just remember like they don't call him Jesus. Well, I didn't know that, how was I supposed to know that? Anyways, so what happened was, I just remember coming to, and she says, do you remember? And I'm like, yes, I do. I remember what I looked like. I remember I was on some kind of animal. I remember I had some kind of like ruggish looking thing wrapped up behind my seat, or where I was sitting, so I could sleep on it at night. And I remember this box I had that was like a trinket box of some kind, but when I pulled the lid off and I look inside, there was this like yellowish stuff in there. So I don't know if it was spices or like incense. I don't know what exactly it was. I just remember it being like a powderish kind of stuff. And I kept putting the lid back on it and checking it and putting the lid, and then I'd wrap it in like a garment to hold it shut. Weird. But she says, do you know why you said the Messiah and did not call him Jesus? She kept saying, that's not what we called him back then. That's not what we called him during that time. She told me herself that they did not call him Jesus back then, that developed over time, that they actually did call him the Messiah. So that kind of flipped me out and freaked me out, like, whoa, really? I mean, he wasn't called Jesus back then as a baby or as a kid. They called him the Messiah. A lot of people that believed in him did. So, I mean, I've heard the word Messiah, and I've heard people nowadays call him the Messiah or whatever, but I did not realize that his name was not baby Jesus or, Jesus. They called him something totally different, and I was stating the name. Not only that is, I seen weird writing inside a book I was writing stuff in this book. Like I kept it. It was made out of weird pressed paper, like this weird, it was almost like a waxy kind of feel paper. But I don't even know what I wrote with. I don't even really remember what I wrote with. I just remember it was like pressed paper of some kind, not really paper. It was made out of something, but it was weird. It was pressed. And I remember seeing the language, or it was foreign to me. It was like weird squiggles. I couldn't understand it, but I tried to focus on some of the letters to try to remember them when I came out. I remember my mind was like, remember these letters, remember these letters, remember these letters. So as I'm trying to remember these letters, I remember her saying, do you know what it says? And I'm like, no, I can't read it. It's in some foreign language I don't understand. She's like, turn your universal translator on. And when you turn your universal translator on, you will be able to read that. And all I remember is the first thing said Lamb of God. And then I think my ego might have stepped in and been like, whoa, we're not going here. And when I went to look down at the next sentences, they turned back into like that weird language I couldn't understand. So I must tell you that yesterday morning, I decided I need to look up what this language is. Like I remember some of the letters, like 2 or 3 of them. And this is going to sound so nuts, guys. Matter of fact, I'm still like freaked out from it, kind of. Not that it's a bad thing, it's just that I'm kind of weirded out. Like, how would I know this? Okay. So I go up and look at handwritten, like, what kind of language would Jesus speak back in the day? And if so, in that area, what would the writing look like? So I'm like looking and I'm seeing like some of the letters that I seen, but I couldn't understand what they said. So then I looked up the Lamb of God written in Galilean Aramaic, I think was the name. And it just so happened this little article popped up. I'm almost getting chills right now because it's kind of weird. Popped up and said the Lamb of God. And right below it, it showed how it was written. And like 2 to 3 of those letters is exactly what I remembered. And I'm like, there's no excuse my effing way I would know that. I don't know what they spoke hundreds of years ago. And it just so happened that Lamb of God was it written out. So then I looked at actual handwriting on like books or whatever from back then or something, documents or whatever they found. And I looked at the writing. I'm like, yes, it was written in this black stuff, whatever it's ash or whatever it is. I don't know. It was written like that and it was bigger. You know, it wasn't like typed. So that's that. And I know that sounds so bizarre and freaking weird, but I'm not a Bible thumper. I'm not somebody who knows this kind of stuff. I wouldn't know that language if you threw it in front of me today. I just remember certain letters from when it translated and I looked at it and it said the Lamb of God. And then it talked about, I know kind of like what it said in there, which is weird. Like even though I couldn't read them letters, I knew what it was saying there. And it was talking about like that we were the flock and he was the shepherd. I know, this is so freaking nuts. It's so crazy. I don't know. I'm still processing this. And every time I think about it, it almost gives me chills up my spine. Like, how's this even possible? How is this even possible? So then, like, my second life, I was a female. The first life, I was a male. Second life, I was a female. But what I did during that first life is happening, like, in this life, okay? So in this life, I'm experiencing, you know, like I always say, I want to restore people's faith and I want people to heal and blah, blah, blah. Well, the person I was in that first life was like that, okay? Very similar to that. You know, they wanted people to believe in a higher power. They wanted people to believe in God and blah, blah, blah. Well, then in the second life, I remember I lived in the mountains in a cabin, like an old rustic cabin. And it only had like 3 rooms downstairs. And I remember a loft going up to the stairs. And I remember like this weird stone fireplace. And I remember as soon as you walked in the front door, you were like in this kitchen area. Then straight through that, which there wasn't like no door, it was all open. There was the fireplace and living room. And then off to the left was a door where be my parents' bedroom. And I was quite a bit older than my younger brother. I had a littler brother, but I was quite a bit, many years older than him. So I'm assuming either they had him or maybe somehow he was a relative's child, but they took him in. I don't know. But I just remember I was supposed to be outside helping my dad, which the cabin that the animal stayed in was very similar to looking the same kind of wood as ours, but it was a makeshift place for animals. And I remember the fence was really weird too because there's a bug. It was made out of old wood too, and it was kind of like dry looking, dark colored stuff. And I remember we had like a couple cows in there. We had like 2 or 3 ducks. We had chickens. We had pigs, I think. And I just remember all the animals were in the same pen, which I thought was really weird. But whatever, okay? And I remember I was supposed to be helping my dad feed the animals, but I was off collecting rocks. And I had dirt under my fingernails, and I could literally see the dirt under my nails. And I had curly frizzy hair, and I had it in like pom-pom like ponytail like things. And I was older. I was probably in my 20s or something. But anyways, so I remember that. And I remember I was going to be in trouble when I got home because my dad wanted me to help do some gardening because we had a garden and we had them animals, not for sale. I don't think we sold them. I think it was for our own personal consumption. And I remember I was supposed to be feeding the animals, and instead I ran down wherever I like to go rock hunting, and I would find unusual rock shapes. The weird thing is, I do that in my life now. I do that in my life now. I have so many different rocks outside in my yard around my little deck that are odd shaped rocks, river rocks, heart shaped rocks I've found. Matter of fact, I've got a huge stone about this big that has a Maltese cross on it that I found in the Ohio River in Covington, Kentucky. And it's huge, where it was a piece of probably a building at one time. And I don't know how old it is. I've had that for a lot of years. So it was weird that that's what she did. And I can remember Dr. Candela asking me, well, why aren't you doing your chores? I said, because this is not what I want to do. I want to be a writer. And I just remember finally my dad didn't want me to do that. He said my place was here. A woman's place was in the home, kind of thing. And it goes on and on and on. Needless to say, I decided to leave anyways. And my father took me by wagon or whatever from the hills of wherever I lived to like a train station. And I think my dad was one of them who helped build the trains through the mountains, because I remember he told me he did engine work on a train engine, like an engine, for a train, and building the tracks through the mountains, I guess. So he finally took me like to the train station or somewhere in our little burg we lived in, or outside that little burg we lived out with the mountains, and let me go to a bigger city where I did go work for a newspaper. And I remember the newspaper was called like the News and Sun or New Sun. I couldn't remember. And I remember she looking at a window in that little town, trying to figure out the name of the town. I remember seeing like Bakersfield or Bakersville. I just remember that. So I tried to look that up. I did find Bakersfield, California. And in Bakersfield, California, back in like 1925 or whatever, they had a newspaper called the New Sun. And I'm like, holy crap, people. This is crazy. All I know is that I want to share this experience with you, but I want to listen to it. And like I said, that's 3.5 hours. So I don't think any of you guys are going to want to listen to 3.5 hours worth of stuff. So I'll probably try to give you clips of it, pieces of it, if I can figure out how to do that through video. But that's where I'm at with this. And like I said, if you've never done it, you really need to try it, because it's definitely an eye-opening experience, and it's very strange, the stuff you talk about, and you don't even really, it just flows like you know it. And my second life's meaning was that I wanted to be a writer so bad, like an investigative writer. And I ended up marrying the person who owned the paper, or who was the top news reporter, I guess. And we had a couple kids, so I never got to fulfill my dream, even though my husband let me help him write articles and stuff like that, and he put his name on them. But I never actually got to do what I had dreamt of doing for such a long time. I guess being a writer, a newspaper investigator, or whatever. So I never got to do that. I never got to fulfill that mission. And I became a mom instead, which I was very happy in my life. That second life I remember. But I guess I kept feeling like people were saying, well, you're a woman. There's not tons of female writers and blah, 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 blah. So I kept feeling like how I do sometimes when I run into a skeptic with my mediumship. So both lives actually relate to how I've been doing my whole life this time too. So now I know I've got the drive, and I've got that extra. I know what I did wrong, or not wrong, but I know what happened in them two lives. I don't know all of it because I haven't listened to the audio, but I do know it relates to me now. Some of it does. And now I've got that confidence again to pursue my mediumship full time or whatever. And I'm not even worried about the skeptics, or if I'm wrong or if I'm right. I'm not even worried about that anymore, because I feel like if it sounds wrong, it's probably not wrong. It's just that I can't figure out exactly what they're showing me. And I try my best to do that. But I did a lovely reading for a lady the other day, actually. And It was amazing. I never met this lady in my life. I had no idea what career she was in. I had no idea. I don't even remember her name, but I was sent a picture of her, and instantly I started getting stuff for her from her dad. So thank you to her dad, because he was a very cool spirit, and he gave me lots of don't doubt yourself. You know what you're doing. And like I said, he said something about the mountains. He said, like, pretty much like I'm helping people, and I can move mountains to do this, even if it's only one pebble at a time. So I think what he was meaning that um, I'm doing something very big and something very good for people, even if I'm only helping one person at a time. That's how I felt. That's what I got from him. So her dad rocks. But anyways, all right. Well, that's my video for right now. I know it's kind of blah, blah, blah here and there and everywhere, but I'm really going to try to open up, maybe making some appointments with people. I'm going to do like a tip jar, and you guys can pay me what you think I'm worth or whatever. The only reason why I want to do it that way, it's a trial basis, just to see what most people give me, in my tips or whatever, just to give me an idea how I should start out when I start doing this full time. So I will probably be taking a couple appointments, maybe a week, or just start out with one appointment a week, until, I feel more confident and more, I guess, get the tweaks out of everything to do this, because I've never really done anything like this through Facebook. And something that one girl that I just did reading for commented is like, how can you do this through text message? I have no clue. I have no clue. She said she's never seen it done like that. And she had no idea, like, I could just do it through text. I don't know why I can do it through text. I've never heard of a medium doing that. So maybe I'm the first medium who does text mediumship. Maybe that's what I'll do. I don't know. I don't know. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to get off here because it's getting late, and I really want to do some research on some stuff I'm looking up. So I love you guys all. Be kind to one another and always believe. Okay? Believe. We have a lot more power within us than what we even realize. And I'm finding that out after this hypnotherapy. All right. Love y'all. Night.